Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. May the Force be with you here on a Mandalorian Season 2 finale spoiler review. I'm your host, Max Mosier, here to break down all things from the season finale of The Mandalorian. But before we get into that, I want to introduce my co-host today, Mark Jones. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I just got a comment because every time I hear May the Force be with you, anyone that's been raised Catholic or currently goes to a Catholic church, I, like myself personally, I just want to say, whenever I hear someone say May the Force be with you, I want to say and with you as well.
What's your response to This Is the Way?
That's it? This is the way? That's not a...
You're not like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Or like another thing that I pull from my growing up in the Catholic Church, like peace be with you and also with you. So like that's like the same thing when I hear, or that's another one. Yeah, may the Force be with you, and I just want to say and also with you. But that's so like when I was a little kid, I would say that all the time when we would play, and like my friends would just be like, "What's wrong with you?" So I've been getting that for a while. So
yeah, you wouldn't growl like Chewbacca.
No.
And scratch your chest and do weird things like that, and they wouldn't give you any weird feedback.
Nope.
Bummer. Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, wherever you're listening, however you're listening. Thanks for making us part of your weekdays or months. Merry Christmas to you, as it's Christmas week.
And happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays to you. We hope you're listening to the car. I would assume some people are listening, Mark, right now on their way to their significant others. Maybe they're heading up north. Maybe they're heading across the country. Thanks for making us part of this trip, guys. This is when I get a lot of my podcasts in. So,
or when you're working out.
That's true, working out. I mean, there's a myriad of things, but this time of year, it's the travel.
Or maybe you have like a nice candlelit bathroom and you're taking a nice deep soak and now you're listening to us in our new podcast.
For sure, that's Isaac. I envision that's how Isaac listens to his podcast.
After he just poured himself a really nice martini and now he's going to relax in that hot, soaked bubble bath.
He goes, give me a milk chocolate, and then gets on in there. We're going to break down everything on The Mandalorian. We're all over the place today. It's going to be a spoiler review, so we want to make sure that if you haven't watched anything from season 2 of The Mandalorian, stop, save this, subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff, and then come back later and listen to this episode. We want to make sure we don't spoil anything for you. I'm going to go ahead and put that bumper right here.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
And we're also going to rate things on this podcast. We want to make sure that you're familiar with our rating system and how we rate things here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that bumper right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an infinity step.
I guess one more housekeeping we have to do as well, Mark. We have a giveaway, a special Christmas giveaway we're doing. Am I correct on this, Mark?
Yeah, we're giving away a few things, I believe. A couple Funko Pops, a t-shirt, our love and affection,
Love and affection you can get. You don't have to do anything. Just message us and say, I need love and affection. We'll have Mark DM you and slide in there. If you want to win a Funko Pop or a t-shirt, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You're going to share our most recent post. We have a post that talks about this giveaway. Make sure you share it. If you comment on it, you get another entry. So you get one entry for the share, one entry for the comment. And then finally, we have a Discord channel. I'll go ahead and put that in the show notes. So below our description, you'll see that in the show notes. Click on that button. Subscribe to the Discord. You can be like me. I don't use Discord ever. I'm in the group, but I'm barely in it. Be like me. Join in, comment, and get yourself an entry. You never know what you could win. Christmas is here. We want to make sure that we come down your chimneys and bless you, the Infinity Bros universe, with some sweet swag. But you're not here to talk about sweet swag. You're here to talk about the Mandalorian. The final season.
The final season? You mean season 2?
I mean, is it the final season? The way it ended, it could be the final season.
I don't, Max, I understand maybe from a story standpoint, it's like, oh, this is where the Mandalorian's done. He's done his duties. But when it comes to making money and making toys, you don't stop at this gravy train.
This season has been a roller coaster of a ride I gotta hear just right out the gate before we review everything. Can you tell us up to this episode? So if you took this episode away, see episodes 1 through 7 of season 2, and you can obviously include season 1. So chapters 1 through 15, where are you at? And what is your rating of this show coming into this episode? Where were you at with that?
I'm giving 100%, so 6 out of 6.
Okay.
Stones. Some could say, to break the rules, I would go over that by decimal points upon decimal points, but I shall not, for the sake of Christmas.
Right. Where were you landing after the episode aired?
Well, apparently they've given Filoni and Favreau the keys.
Okay, let's talk
to
about
the
that
Mercedes.
Just tell me
and
what
they're
your
just
rating is of the season.
You know what? Kathleen
After
Kennedy
you watched
looks
it.
over at them, throws them the keys. You guys got it. And I mean that in the most positive way, because it's just like, you know what? Because if this was I just refer it to or the Titans show for DC. For them to get Batman, they just get Bruce Wayne. They're never going to give them Batman. Over at Disney and with Star Wars, they're like, you know what? You want to use Luke Skywalker? You go do it. And then know what they do? They exceed your expectations. Everyone's thinking they'll use a minor character. They'll use Cal Kestis or Ezra or maybe Mace Windu. No. Or Ahsoka
I
will come
promise
back.
we have a structure on this show. Mark is just so excited about this.
They're
What do you think about this episode versus-
here's an X-Wing zooming in. Oh, it's just one X-Wing, and everyone's like, ha, and us as fans are like, ha, you know nothing.
This is just like word vomit right now. You just had to go out and say this before we started anything else.
Oh my gosh.
Chapter 16, The Rescue. I'm assuming you give it a 6 out of 6. I'm just going to dive in. The season for me before this episode was a 5.5 out of 6. It was great, not perfect. Couple filler episodes that needed a little bit of work, but I would still give it a very strong rating. This episode is the highest 6s of 6s. Let's get into the chapter 16, The Rescue of the Mandalorian. It was 44 minutes, directed by Peyton Reed. Did it shock you that Peyton Reed directed it?
No.
It shocked me. Last episode and episodes before, I said Peyton Reed is a filler director. Wow. What a great job by him.
Nothing like using Luke Skywalker as a filler.
Yeah, I was going to say, not anymore. He's not. This was written by Jon Favreau. It obviously stars Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian, Omid Abtahi, as Dr. Pershing, Tamura Morrison as Boba Fett, Gina Carano as Cara Dune, Sasha Banks as Casca Reeves. You really like Sasha Banks as a wrestling fan. How'd you think she did this episode?
Really good. It was a good time.
What'd you give her rating of the episode? Did you like her fight at the beginning with Boba Fett?
Yeah, it was that was very much, hey, she's a wrestler, so she can do this stuff. That's what it felt like to me. But I loved what they showed, that, hey, this girl's woman is a badass. And she kind of just bested Boba Fett, which, I mean, we should know Boba Fett is probably in his 50s or 60s at this point. But it just shows, hey, maybe there'll be a passing of the torch later on, maybe in the Book of Boba or Boba
The Book
Fett.
of Boba Fett, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So, we'll see where this goes down.
Katie Sackhoff returns as Bo-Katan. Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand. Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon. This shocked everybody, and we're going to talk about it probably ad nauseum, and Mark, you've word vomited about it. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
Not Sebastian Stan, but Luke Skywalker.
It was not Sebastian Stan as you wanted it.
I would have lost my mind either way if it was CGI'd young version of Mark Hamill, or if we got Sebastian Stan just with his prosthetics.
You're all over the place, dude. You're freaking out. IMDb, Mark, we talked about it with the Jedi. The highest rating ever for this series up to this point was 9.7 for the episode of the Jedi, which obviously starred Ahsoka Tano, Rosario Dawson. This one on IMDb, Mark, do you have a guess at what the rating is right now of it?
Well, if it's not 10 out of 10, we got to find those people that gave it under a 10 and beat them up.
It's a 9.9 out of 10 right now.
Looks like we got a Jane Silent Bob this bit.
We've got some people we need to call down.
Find those users and beat them up at their house.
This episode aired the day after Jeremy Bulloch, who physically played Boba Fett in Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, died. The Arabesh text on the menu board hanging on the wall behind Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves in the cantina includes dishes such as harissa, Kushnip, Frawl, Horenbred, Jorgun, Lamta, Scood Pie, Polystark, Dopato, Milaru, Seedy Gourd, Roasted Seedy, Galastu, Cutter Ribs, Roasted Nuna, Shock Kebab, Andorian Tip-Yip, Yoba Shrimp, Space Waffles, and Veg Meat. Did you like that, Mark? Or did you not care about that?
I like how that was your big poll. Like, hey, you know what? We're going to talk about this.
Well, I'm just reading the trivia I pulled up. It's from IMDb. I pulled it up. I just thought for this episode you talk about this stuff. Jarrett would probably be foaming at the mouth if I brought that up. Don't you think? The launch sequence of the TIE Fighters is shot to resemble those of the Colonial Vipers from the original Battlestar Galactica. A little nod to that. Mercedes Vidano's second appearance in the series. She's also known as WWE superstar Sasha Banks. We talked about her obviously earlier, Mark. In this episode, during any of the fighting, she's shown showing off some of her wrestling skills, doing a tornado DDT. Is that true, Mark?
That is true. And she just retained her title at TLC last night. So there's also that. Yeah.
I read online that some people were upset that her trademark move, I don't know what it's called, but that she didn't do it.
Yeah, that's fair. But, you know.
What is it called for the listeners who aren't familiar with wrestling?
Oh my gosh, I haven't been watching WWE in a while, but I will look
That's
it up
okay.
for you.
You look it up while I talk
because
about it.
I watch AEW because WWE's been pretty trash for the last few months.
We know you're an elitist when it comes to wrestling. This is the 5th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 7. It's been 5 years since The Force Awakens came out. It feels like yesterday that came out. And they have a slew of people that were in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yada, yada, yada. And Mark, this is incredible. I don't know how. This isn't on the trivia, but there were no spoilers that Mark Hamill was in this.
Yeah, right?
None. We had no inkling. I sit on Reddit, people. I look for spoilers, at least with some of our little bit segments, which is a bit we do about rumors and potential spoilers. I didn't see anything like this out there, Mark.
And I feel like one of our last podcasts that we did together, I said it's probably going to be Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and I blew it off.
And I heard nothing about it. I was just like, it's probably just going to be him. It's an easy poll, and no one will see it coming.
And you, in your defense of that, you said, I think Sebastian Stan could do it.
Exactly, he looks just like him.
And I don't think anybody would have had an issue if he had done it that way. But I don't think any of us were suspecting that Mark Hamill would come out and do this. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room to start this, Mark.
Her signature move is called the bank statement.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, our listeners were on the edge of their seat.
But that's more of a submission move. So like, I don't know why you'd want. I mean, I guess if she was going to put Boba Fett in like a chokehold, then yeah.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to put him in a chokehold. That would kick him behind his back. That would be. I saw the move, but I didn't know what it was called. I was like, they could have done that. Whatever. But with Mark Hamill, Mark, I want to talk about him to start because I feel like he's the big thing here.
Yeah.
Did you feel like this was executed well, given that the CGI was probably the weakest part of the whole show, in my opinion? I don't know what your opinion on the CGI is, but what did you think of that?
Literally the only part, I was like, okay, this is going to be Luke Skywalker. You see the glove, the black glove, and it's like, okay. And he has a human hand holding the green lightsaber. He's in a hood. He's holding the lightsaber like he usually does. It's Luke Skywalker. And then when we see him CGI faced, I'm thinking, like, not the best they've done, but it was definitely passable, I feel like, in my opinion. And I'm not going to critique it, but I think they did it perfect. They did it great. Like, you just get this whole, like, sequence of, this is what a Jedi would look like in this world.
Yeah.
Where he just is super powerful. And he's just going, just like the Rogue One scene with Darth Vader, where he just mows down the rebels. It's basically what we got, but with droids.
We'll talk more about his reveal in a bit, but I just was curious what your thoughts out the gate were him being in it. I think a majority of people are very excited about it, but we'll talk about his future.
How can you? I want to hear an opinion from someone that's not excited about Luke Skywalker being in it. Like, there's got to be someone out there that's like, they're rooting the Skywalker stories. Like, are they at this point? Really can't do much to ruin. There's nothing you can do that will ruin episode 4, 5, and 6. They're already great. This is just icing on the cake at this point with more Luke Skywalker stuff.
I'll talk about that real quick. Dan Murrell, who used to be on Movie Fights and Screen Junkies, left and now has his own show. I might actually even put his review in our show notes. I'm going to do that. if you want to check this out, it's a 15-minute review. He reviewed it right after Mark, and he had some really, in my opinion, great points. I didn't agree with them, but I thought they were fair points. His point being that I'm done with the Skywalkers. His mood being, we are moving past this. What makes The Mandalorian special is it's separated from what we've known for decades.
Yep.
And to bring them back into the fold felt, pun intended, forced. It just feels like Star Wars at times can't get away from the Skywalkers. Now, Max Mosier, putting his Max Mosier hat on right now, will say, I don't have an issue with that as long as it's in small doses moving forward. Especially given the time frame and the direction of these characters. I can't tell you it wasn't an emotional scene. But for Dan Murrell, that was his opinion. And that's a guy I trust, Mark. I'll put it that way. That's a guy whose opinion I feel like is valid, and he knows what he's talking about.
I'll agree with him and your opinion on that. Yeah, I don't think we need. I know there's talks like, are they going to do a Skywalker like series? Like maybe if we got like 1 8-episode like mini series, that's good. We don't need something drawn out. But yeah, we didn't need like Ahsoka. It's like I hope she gets her own show, but we didn't need her so filled and just kind of like a secondary character. Like she deserves her own show. At this point, Luke Skywalker is like a once in a while like showing up type of person. That's all we need.
Right.
The universe is so big with Star Wars stuff. There's so many stories to be told. We got our Skywalker throughout 6 movies with Luke. We don't really need a huge focus involved in a story that's already kind of standing on its own legs.
What did you think of, let's go back to the beginning and just start from scratch here. Mandalorian obviously is working with Boba Fett. He's working with Fennec Shand.
Well, no longer or you just talking about the beginning of the episode?
I'm talking about the beginning of the episode.
Okay, sorry.
He goes and they recruit Casca Reeves and Bo-Katan. They both agree. We talked about that fight at the beginning. What did you think of the of the space fight they had with the TIE fighters?
Loved it.
And Boba Fett. It felt classic Star Wars, and I love the way they're filming these, Mark.
I love that it kind of feels like it doesn't feel like it's a cinematic movie. It kind of feels like if the 70s had technology of today.
Correct.
That's what it feels like, and I love it because it still feels so much of the space western that we've been given these last 2 seasons. I feel like that is like their goal. It's like, hey, at the end of the day, we want to treat this just like any western you'd have seen TV show in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. And that's what it feels, and I love it. That's the aesthetic I love.
They capture Omid Abdahi. That was obviously the opening sequence before they had the title sequence. Dr. Pershing, he tells them, in order to save the child, you're going to have to go into this large spaceship craft. Forgive me, I don't know the name.
I think it's like a light cruiser, I think is what they called it. I don't remember the name of
Thank you.
Don't remember the name of the ship itself.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just calling it a spaceship. This is such a filthy casual. Dr. Pershing tells them they need to go in, so they create a plan. The diversion, obviously, they have the girl power scene. So Jarrett brought this up in our group chat, Mark, and I think it's really important for us to chat about this. Gina Carano, Sasha Banks, Katie Sackhoff, Ming-Na Wen, their characters have this massive entry-level fight with all these stormtroopers, and I thought it was a remarkable sequence to start us off.
I think Robbie said it in our group too, or it was Jarrett, but I said this to Kelly. It's like, we get the girl fight scene, but it was at the end of like everything was happening. Like we talked about it. It's like, but it didn't feel. And I think it was Robbie who said it, but it didn't feel like that. Like you didn't think of that right away, like you normally do with like The Boys season 2 or like Endgame. Like, oh, we get the girl fight and like
right.
Empowerment. It's like this felt so natural. Like, of course, it's like you didn't even think about like, oh, there's no male character, and we're 2 dudes talking about this, so like who gives an F our opinions on this stuff, I guess. But I loved it. I think it just shows that you don't need male leads to make it seem dominant. No, anyone can be a badass.
I loved it too, Mark. And the comparison I give it to is Avengers Endgame. A lot of people gave Avengers Endgame the A-Team sequence with all the female-led characters having that fight where Captain Marvel is taking the gauntlet to the van.
Sure.
And they felt like that was... A lot of people claimed that was a forced scene. I did not feel that way.
In my opinion, I feel like that was a forced scene. This one didn't feel like a forced scene. And I think the reason why people say Endgame was forced because they just all show up, and of course you're going to have... Well, and what was the one? the Wasp would have been on the other side of the battlefield. You're telling me she crossed path past the freaking car to get into this shot? No.
I liked it. It was in good taste. The difference between the two scenes was the Avengers, and you talked about this. The difference is the Avengers one felt like they were trying to make that statement. This scene did not feel like it. It felt like, no, they are the cavalry.
Yeah.
And not to be pun intended with Ming-Na Wen's character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
I think it was a great scene. I love seeing scenes. I'm finding this the more I watch Star Wars shows, as we're getting them more on Disney Plus with The Mandalorian. I like watching herds of stormtroopers die at the hands of random people. I love it.
I enjoyed so much with Cara Dune's character in this episode, and like her gun jamming.
Yes.
And just being the force that she is as like a real person, like being an MMA fighter, with Gina being like an MMA fighter in real life, and just like, yeah, she would tear down a ton. And then her being what they call her, because she was a drop something, I'm forgetting right now. Her like character in the show.
I forget the name they call. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But just they like know that she's could kill everyone by herself if she really needed to.
And I really feel like Ming-Na Wen is a great number 2 to Boba Fett. What a strong character that has to be moving forward with the book of Boba Fett. We'll talk about that later. When I first saw her in season 1, I don't know if I was fully convinced she was that character. But as she's made her comeback in the second season, in particular 2 episodes ago, I believe, when they captured the child, Grogu.
Mm-hmm. Grogu.
That was Grogu.
Grogu.
It's not Grogu. He's not a Super Saiyan. When they captured Grogu, it really felt to me as if Ming-Na Wen was a character. I'm sorry, Fennec Shand is a character that is not to be messed with. And I really like her. Bo-Katan has history. I don't know it, but from what I've heard from other people, you don't mess with Bo-Katan. Casca Reeves, she's great with all her stuff. And Cara Dune, as you said, she is the hammer in a world full of nails. I love it. I think it's great. I love the scene. As the scene transitions, Moff Gideon starts to realize that the end is near, so he heads over to take the child hostage, essentially. And before that happens, Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian comes in contact with these dark troopers. Are they droid troopers? What's the specific name they called them? I forget what they called them exactly.
I'm pretty sure they called them dark troopers.
We'll call them dark troopers then. He fight, and it takes every trick he has in the bookmark just to beat one. And he ends up using his staff to defeat him. I loved this sequence, and I also cracked up at the convenience of a door that led to the outside for those droids just to fall out.
But that's set up because you saw them all fall out, and I looked over at Kelly when I was watching with her, and it's like, those are going to come back.
For sure. I knew that.
Just like Grievous, they're gonna find a way back under the ship and use their, mechanical stuff to get back in.
I love that sequence. They felt like the foreboding presence in the whole show. It was a great presence to have. I loved it. And then we get the big showdown. Moff Gideon versus Mandalorian. It's been built up for essentially 2 seasons. We get to see the Darksaber in action. And I'll tell you what, the Mandalorian is pretty great, Mark. He is even better with a sword staff in his hand. Mm-hmm. And I'm here for it. Moving forward, if that Darksaber's in his hand, I know nothing about the history past what the show has told me. I'm all in on this. Let's roll forward this. Mandalorian is sweet with this stuff. What did you think of that fight?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, we get basically the setup in the episode of the Jedi when we see that staff being used against a lightsaber. It's like, okay, this is going to end. The season's going to end with him using that staff in a fight with Gideon and that Darksaber. Like, it's going to happen, and we got that. It, paid off in the end.
It's a good way to put it. I didn't think of that, but that's a good way to think of it.
And then him, basically, it just seemed like his whole intention was like, hey, can I beat him? And when figuring out I can't, he's like, I gotta find a way to screw up their plan, because Moff Gideon knew who he was with. So, like, if I, basically lose and he takes a saber from me, then I can hope maybe there's some infighting between Mando and and Bo-Katan. So I loved like the mind game that was kind of, underneath the fight itself, what was going on. But I loved the fight scene.
I thought this fight scene, this episode is so stupid jam-packed with great fight scenes, right? You get we'll call it girl power scene, where our 4 female-led heroes go through the gauntlet of stormtroopers, absolutely demolish them, having no business doing it. Then we get Mandalorian taking on essentially the strongest character up to this point that's not a human in that droid, with a sweet staff battle. Then we get this fight with the Darksaber, and in my head, Mark, I thought that was it. I thought that's as far as we're going to go. We'll see a transaction of the child. Maybe we'll see one more thing, and maybe there'll be some epilogue where, we find out who that Jedi is. But we don't get that. They capture him, and Moff Gideon tells him and the character of Bo-Katan that she has to win the Darksaber off of Pedro Pascal. And you and I have talked about this, Mark. What is the conflict that Favreau will leverage in the end of season 2? We thought that might be with Boba Fett and Mace Windu. It turns out it is with Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian, and that will definitely take over season 3, it looks like. Wow, what a reveal, and I loved the acting of Katie Sackhoff here. Did you feel the tension there as much as I did? I thought the acting was superb. And Pedro Pascal, how this guy, I'm sorry to cut you off one more. I asked you a question, then I cut you off. Sorry.
Yeah.
How Pedro Pascal can wear a mask and exude so much acting ability is absolutely insane to me. The man shows tension without even letting me see his face. I think it's remarkable. Go ahead.
I mean, I just relate it to like Tom Hardy and Bane. Like, some people crap on The Dark Knight Rises, but Tom Hardy and showing so much emotion with a mask on, and in his case, we got to see his eyes, so we could see those. But I totally agree with you. What Pedro Pascal does, the Mandalorian, in this full suit, and it's just like you really have to be physical with your acting.
Like, Katie Sackhoff has to still act off of what he's giving her. It's incredible.
Yes, exactly.
I love it.
And, she's one that takes her helmet off more. But, like, the history you get if you watch the Clone Wars, like, she voiced Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars. So it's just like...
Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, like, she's already has, like, a relationship with this character. So I think it might be pretty easy for her to, like, live action it, because she's been living with this character in her mind and acting as this character for a while. But, yeah, that tension when, Moff is like, well, he won it off of me. And his hope is, like, they would probably start fighting right then and there. But she's probably smart enough to know, like, hey, this is not the arena to fight for this. We'll figure out a different way, and that's probably, like you said, that's going to be the anchor that will move into season 3, and probably that will be, part of season 3 is like, how does that relationship
right? Is that
evolve?
the arc
Mando's
you
just,
think
like,
going into? Yeah.
No, I think it'll be. I'm sure. I don't think it'll be the main arc, because I'm sure that if Thrawn's not in with the Ahsoka series, I feel like Thrawn might be a main bad guy.
Well, they're
3.
connecting all of them too. Remember, Mark. So,
Yep.
and you weren't here on the last episode with Rangers, Ahsoka, and Mandalorian. They're going to connect all of them. So I think Thrawn is the big bad, connecting all 3 of them here behind the scenes. That's just my. I know nothing about those characters. I'm a filthy casual when it comes to these characters. And then finally, Mark, we get the sequence that, in my opinion, is the best of the series so far. It's going to be hard in a couple months for me not to put it top 5 all time.
I love the sequence, but I say it goes, head to head with the beginning of the Jedi episode, with Ahsoka going through.
Man,
I love that, and that's the thing. You don't have a relationship having not watched the Clone Wars, so I understand why that would not be up there for you.
Agreed. I get that.
I would love to hear what people who have watched Clone Wars, what their opinion of my opinion, or what their thoughts are on that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say one's better or the other. I love them both.
I just think with Luke Skywalker, to see him after episode 6 be the Jedi that we were told about. And I'm going to take a turn real quick, and I want to talk about this.
Or like the myth and legend that, us fans have, like, created in, like, fan fiction, or the books.
Correct.
The books that have been written that are, some are not canon anymore, but, like, just this this power that he has, basically, is like he's the most powerful Jedi, and they kind of poo-poo that in the the sequel trilogy, but all that.
My big frustration, and a lot of people have said this, actors, diehards, toxic fan bases, healthy fan bases, my frustration with it was the last time we see Luke throws down his saber, and he says, I'm not going to fight against my father. This is what Yoda taught me.
Yep.
We transition to episode 8, and I'm led to believe, I'm told that this same guy is grizzled and hardened by a world after this Vader incident, and he tries to kill his sister's son.
But that hasn't happened yet.
The point I'm making in all of this is it is very refreshing to see this rendition of Luke back. And I would imagine that no matter how much Ahsoka I watch, this still is going to be more powerful to me due to the nostalgia of the character that dates decades.
Yes. I'm not going to fight you on that.
No, I know. That's the only reason I would argue for it.
Sure.
This episode also, to me, to speak to your point on Clone Wars, Mark, I tweeted this. I'm going to now watch these shows.
Oh, yeah.
Because I cannot continue in this series, in my opinion, without doing that. Bo-Katan is so important now, moving forward, that I have to know what's going on.
With all the Star Wars shows that have been announced for Disney Plus, you kind of need to. Like, if you're going to watch Bad Batch, you're like, where's this coming from? It's like, there's many episodes of the Bad Batch in Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm. You can hear all our thoughts on these the Disney Plus announcements on the last episode. On the last episode of Infinity Bros. Anyway, no, I just wanted to put that plug there. That to me, Mark, this sequence is great. I really like what we saw. I thought the choreography was perfect from the Jedi. It really, the only comparison really is the Ahsoka scene. You're right. I loved it. I thought it was great. I was absolutely floored when that X-Wing came in.
Yes.
Because my first thought was the same as yours. And I believe you and I talked about this. I was like, an X-Wing? What's so big about an X-Wing? What? Then it hit me. And I was like, they're not going to do it. And
I have to touch back on the Ahsoka thing because I just thought of this. The thing that makes Ahsoka, like, that first scene so special is that's her first live action scene.
Right.
So, like, it's bringing her into the live action universe. She's technically been in the universe, but we actually have it's actually happening. So I think that, like, going back to what I said, if you've watched the Clone Wars and you loved it, that's what makes that special. And then knowing her history with Anakin Skywalker too. So, like, I would love there to be a scene where Ahsoka and Luke talk. Like, that is very possible. And they talk about Anakin Skywalker.
The other thing is we haven't seen this Luke. We have not seen this post Return of the Jedi
since, like,
Luke.
the 80s.
We haven't.
Yeah.
It's been decades.
Unless you've read the books. Then
for sure. And I haven't.
Yeah.
And I just think there was power in this.
Oh my gosh.
That has been the only, like, this was the expectation for the trilogy that just came out, Mark. This was the expectation.
It's what was this is we would get too far deep into the weeds if we kept going. If we
Agreed.
talked, if you opened up this door for me, I could talk for another 30 minutes just on this. I agree with you.
We're pontificating. My apologies. So Luke ends this massive fight. He desecrates the entire droid army. He comes in. He drops his hood, and let's talk about the CGI.
And that too. Hang on. When he's defeating these droids, they're dark troopers. We were shown in the first part of the episode that these things are hard to destroy.
Correct.
And, like, fire doesn't do it. It takes a lot of blasting doesn't do it. And Luke Skywalker shows up and just, like, he's swatting flies. Like, this is nothing. Like, just love it.
It was majestic. He comes in, removes his hood. We talked about the CGI, but I want to dive deeper into this because this is a question moving forward. Is this a sustainable character to bring back in a few episode basis?
Yes, a few episodes.
Given the CGI,
yeah.
Some would believe that he might even get his own show.
Maybe, and that's why I said, give me a limited series. Like, even if it's like 3 episodes, 3 hour-long episodes, great. I don't need 8 seasons. I mean, I would love 8 seasons, but just go back to the one guy you brought up. I think if you're not going to, well, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. If Jon Favreau and Filoni are in on this, they would knock it out of the park, and it might supersede the original trilogy if they're the ones at the helm.
That's called
bold. I'm making a bold statement. right there. But
that is a very bold statement. I don't agree with that.
But I'm just saying, going out there. But yeah, I mean, I think we could get a few episodes, and now with people saying like, "Oh man, you could do better CGI," blah blah blah. We're gonna get it. So there it is.
I agree with you, Mark. I think they can do it.
And maybe he had a beard on. Like, maybe it didn't look good because he had a beard, just like, Justice League and Superman mustache looks horrible CGI'd, so,
I think for sure he's coming back season 3. I think that's a very safe bet. But we'll see. He takes Grogu, and we get this absolutely on top of all the amazing things we get.
The heart-wrenching scene where he touches his face and they look at each other, and I'm like, why? Why are you doing this to me, Disney Plus?
And Mark, I stood out of my chair in this scene, and I have tears coming out of my eyes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am crying over this amazing scene because, one, I'm seeing a hero I grew up with that my father taught me to love in Luke Skywalker, in this new hero that I've come to love in this year of 2020 that has not had many wins. Grogu and the Mandalorian have been the power couple of 2020, and the band is breaking up.
Well, I mean, maybe they won't be.
Yeah, he touches his face. It's ridiculously sad. And then on top of all of it, Mark, R2-D2
and then
emerges. And
I'm he does his beep boops and beat ups and get the
beep boop bop boops. Yeah. Now there's an interesting theory, Mark, going around on the internet. I read this on Reddit that R2-D2, when he was speaking to Grogu, actually was talking to him because he saved him from when Anakin tried to kill the younglings. They're saying that R2-D2 is the reason he got out of there. Now, canonly, I don't know if that works.
Never heard about
but
that.
There are theories that is what he was saying, and that's why he was all excited to see Grogu. There are also other theories, like you said, that, oh my gosh, it's just Baby Yoda.
Or him and Anakin were pals, and he got a text message from Anakin, be like, you better ditch, and he got out.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But that was a great scene. Obviously, 6 out of 6 of that.
Or he's Yoda's son, and Yoda preemptively got him out there before anything happened because he could, see into the future.
Do you think he's Yoda's son? Do you really?
Maybe.
I don't think he is.
Well, okay. This is what would bring to my theory. Like, this is what I kind of love about the Star Wars canon is we only have 2. Well, now we have 3. But prior to Grogu, we had 2 of Yoda's species. We had a male and Yeddle, the female. And not even, like, I can't, well, I don't know, like, with my knowledge of some of the reading books, I don't think, and even going through Wikipedia, I don't think there is another of that species. Like, if you go to Wikipedia, they don't have an identified species name. It's not a planet, I don't believe. So where else are these, Baby Yodas coming from?
Don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, maybe that's where I think that's a more plausible theory, is it could be Yoda's son, but who knows? All be revealed in good time.
I mean, we trust these guys, right?
I would trust them writing my life story at this point. Like, you know what? You know nothing about me, but I'm sure you'd knock it out of the park.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about the future real quick, Mark. I want to ask you a couple questions and just to give a couple predictions for season 3 so we can have it on the record.
Oh, and hang on. And we got the cutscene at the end of season 2. The end credit scene, or mid-credit scene, whatever you want to call it, with Boba
Fett. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Well, you just went on to the next.
I've got a lineup here. You're working.
No, you didn't tell me the lineup. So what?
No. You keep jumping the gun. All right.
Well, I'm too excited.
I know. You're excited. I know.
It's the 4th of July. I'm 12 years old. I got a bag full of firecrackers, and I'm ready to go.
Okay. Well, I'm happy for you. What do you think is the direction that Filoni and Favreau wants to go moving into season 3?
See, this is where it's like, do they just do Thrawn? Do they do a Bo-Katan versus Mandalorian type of thing? Because I don't think they're gonna let Boba Fett do his own thing, so they're gonna let him do his thing. Does Luke Skywalker come back into the mold like halfway this season? Are we gonna jump a few years since like maybe that's how Mando gets back with Grogu? Is like the whole Kylo Ren stuff happens, so like he goes and saves Grogu or something like that. I don't know. Like Grogu reaches out to the Force to be like, "Hey man, I need your help." Do we get more Mando and Ahsoka teaming up to find Thrawn? I don't know, whatever. Or they just keep us in the dark and we just like in season 1, we don't know what to expect and we just get an amazing 8 episodes. So,
That's 2 straight seasons, though, where they've hidden the biggest thing.
And we got to deal with Moff Gideon. He didn't kill himself. He was ready to. That's the whole thing.
Moff Gideon's still around, yeah.
Yeah, Moff Gideon's still around. He's got an answer to the Republic, so it's like, get me some of that. Give me some of what's going on. Maybe we'll get a CGI Leia at this point, because I'm sure she'd be like, hey, I'm going to interrogate.
I don't know. That's tricky.
It's not tricky. You just get
I don't
her
think
daughter
that's a
to play
good
her.
idea.
Whatever. You know, you're going to say this. You're saying that now, and then it happens, and I said it here first, so, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just like Luke Skywalker. You passed off Luke Skywalker, showed up, it's like, it's going to be him, but let's hope it's Mace Windu.
Mark, what do you think of Grogu moving forward? Do you think this is the end of his arc in this show? There's some people implying that we won't see Luke anymore, that this is the end of the Grogu arc, and now we move towards Mandalorian doing other stuff, and Grogu comes back in like a season 4, 5, 6.
I would like to let those people know that they have no ownership of Grogu as a merchandise item, so he's coming back. You think Disney's just going to give up on the millions of dollars him as a character makes them? Doubt it.
Right.
He's coming back. And that's all I got to say about that. I always bring it back to money with this stuff.
I do think they might wait till the end of the season, Mark. I do think he might not be
That
to
is
the
fair.
end of the season.
That is fair. It's like, you know, you'd be like, hey, no more Baby Yoda, and then he comes back and you're like, hell yeah, brother. And then you buy all the toys and t-shirts.
So you think Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker will come back?
Oh yeah.
Do you think Boba Fett, outside of his show that's starting, the Book of Boba Fett, will come back in this show, or will he stay in that show till the crossover?
I would say he would stay in that show. Like, let him sail on. Like, if I had to put money on it, I would say Boba Fett stays in his show. Season 3, we get a little bit more of Luke and maybe more of Ahsoka, and that would be my predictions for those characters.
Where does this show go from here, though, Mark? Like, I like, what does Mando do next? Like, to me, this feels like the one thing I would say about this episode that does concern me. I still give it a 6 because of that Luke scene alone. But where does Mando go from here? That's the one character I look at, aside from his Bo-Katan feud, right? And Moff Gideon's alive, but they have him in custody. That's the one character I feel like kind of didn't get a future outlook. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can fast forward, air quotes, a couple years, a la literally all the Star Wars movies.
Sure. And
create new tensions with new characters and new conflicts. That's the one thing that concerns me moving forward with him. I feel like that's where Luke could have overshadowed him. It's one of the few moments in a show where you're like, man, I'm glad the main character got overshadowed by a character that probably will only be in a couple episodes. You know, that's the one concerning piece for the future that I see.
Like, I feel like you use him sparingly, and that's why I said only a couple times, for moments like this.
Correct.
I don't think like, going back to if he has his own show, yes, let him be centered there, but he's always going to overshadow any series, any person you put him in, because he has that nostalgia, he has that myth level, like, character in this whole universe, so he's always going to overshadow everybody. So that's why I think you want to use him sparingly and in good taste and really, really plot-driven stories with him.
How long, Mark, till Kathleen Kennedy gets kicked out for Favreau? This just feels like I feel like Favreau is going to be in charge of all of this soon.
Well,
this literally feels like Kevin Feige for the Star Wars universe.
Hopefully that happens and everyone's happy with it, or maybe Kathleen.
Or would you want Filoni? I guess that's the other question.
I would like the team of both, because you get Filoni, who knows all the interworkings of all these, like, Clone Wars and little stuff, but then I think with Favreau you can bring in the big names. Like, I think that's and he can tell really good stories and is a great director. I think Filoni's a good story guy and can, like, tie everything together really well. And with Favreau, you get the good, hey, I can get all these guys and gals in and make something great. I want them both. I think they could work well together.
The lineup coming out in the next couple of years, Mark, it's ridiculous.
Still doing it better than Warner Brothers, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't take much, really.
Broad strokes, real quick, before we go to the top 5. What shows are you looking forward to the most that are coming to Disney Plus for Star Wars?
Well, the Boba Fett one, for sure. I'm really.
That's the one where I have no idea where it could go. Like, is he just he's just ruling the Hutt Empire, and what happens then?
But the Obi-Wan show, definitely. bad. Like all of them, I'm excited for, but like the one I'm kind of like secretly like excited for, not secretly, but and like I kind of want to see where they do with it is Rogue Squadron, because I saw that they posted a timeline, and that's supposed to happen after the last episode 9 for the movies. So I want to see
Rogue Squadron would be a movie.
I want to see what they're doing.
It's Patty Jenkins.
Yeah, and I want to see what does the Star Wars world look like after the whole Skywalker's saga is done. Like what does that world look like, or universe? So
you're not a Mando guy?
Well, I want Mando. Yeah, that's easy. Everything Star Wars, just like everything Marvel, everything DC, I want to consume it all. And I'm definitely a Star Wars fan that doesn't poo-poo the prequel sequel or trilogy or the sequel trilogy. I love all that stuff. Give me more Jar Jar Binks. Give me digital clone troopers. I love it all. I'm not gonna crap on anything because I'm not one of those people. And you know who you people are.
You're full of crap. That third trilogy sucks.
Whatever. I love it, and it means a lot to me. Stuff that was happening. Personally, I love all that stuff. I don't care.
I'm to the point where the prequels might be better than the second trilogy, especially with what we're seeing now. I feel like Mandalorian, Mark, we're getting into the weeds here, but Mandalorian is making that post-trilogy worse.
That they might timeline it where it's in an alternate universe as the prequel trilogy? Have you heard that stuff?
Oh, I hope they don't.
That's been a rumor.
Keep it canon. You hold your ground.
Hold the door.
Hold your ground. There's so many more time frames in this universe to attack and discuss that you don't need to do that. I disagree. All right, we're getting in the weeds. We're being Star Wars nerds. Let's head to the top 5.
We're going in 3,
Infinity Bros
2,
Top 5
1.
List starts now. Every episode we like to do a top 5 where we have a water cooler discussion of our top 5 things from the previous weeks or weeks. This week it is top 5 moments from season 2 of The Mandalorian. Mark, I will start us off with my number 5. Bill Burr's emotional scene as Mayfield. Underrated scene in the context of the whole season.
That is my number 5 as well. I'm sorry.
Shut your mouth.
That is.
Air 5.
Air 5, bam.
That's
Go
awesome.
on.
No, I thought this scene was great. Mando having his helmet off. It felt like the scene from Inglourious Bastards with Fassbender. I really enjoyed this scene. This is great acting, and Bill Burr is showing that he is a serious actor and deserves more of a cornerstone in universes like Star Wars. I really enjoyed this scene. You did as well. Mark, tell us what your number 4 is.
Oh, I want to go a little bit more into this. I love how Bill Burr made fun of Star Wars, and then from that joke is now in like a memorable character role. And with that, like Richard Brake's character, he always plays this insidious dude. And when I saw him, I was like, this dude is gonna find a way to piss off one of these dudes.
Right.
And he did it so well. And you just saw with Mayfield and Bill Burr's character, he's like he just had such a strong distaste for this guy. And it was still a surprise when he just shoots him and he's just like screws up everything, but his emotions just took over. It's like, no, this guy is just terrible. He's bad blood. We got to take him out. Loved it. Okay. My number 4 is, I'm just going to overarch at this. Moff Gideon in the last episode. This is where I think, going back to what you said about like what could happen in season 3, I want to know how Moff Gideon knows pretty much everything that's going on. How did he know Mando was with the people he was with? How does he just know all his information? Like, there's something, like, is he working with the Emperor still? Like, does he have some insight? Or, like, going back with Thrawn always knew stuff, so, like, is he talking directly with Thrawn? And the whole, like, him just being so calculated, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to lose the saber, and then I'm just going to calculate that there's a high probability that Bo-Katan and Mando will just screw this all up for themselves and fight each other. And then to the point where he was ready, he grabbed a blaster and was ready to kill himself when he saw Luke Skywalker come in, because he's like, oh, I'm done for, and didn't happen. So, like, that's why I'm excited for him to come back. You can't, like, I need more of Moff Gideon next season, so I want to know where that goes. That's my number 4.
That's great. Number 4 for me is Boba Fett getting his armor back.
Yep.
It's simple, it's pure, but on top of it, we were told for years, Boba Fett's this really bad, super badass guy. Don't mess with Boba Fett. And in the original trilogy, the CGI and the special effects just weren't there to show that. We got it.
Well, he's
great.
He gets this lore
I love Boba Fett
of his badass with like the comics and books that came afterwards.
Yeah,
that's where he gets
exactly.
that
But we hadn't seen it on live screen.
Sure, for sure.
And it was time, and I felt like Favreau and Filoni did that well.
Great.
My number 3 was Ahsoka versus Morgan Elsbeth in the Jedi episode. You made a great point here, Mark, that it was a samurai fight and a spaghetti western duel happening side by side. You have this tension of conflict with these 4 characters, but you also have this tension of genre. Like filmmakers, this is a smorgasbord of great content. Remarkable job by Favreau and Filoni here. This to me is where your point of Favreau and Filoni being a two-headed combo is great. Filoni wrote it. I think Favreau filmed it and made it better.
Sure.
That's how I really feel about it, but that's just my opinion. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Luke Skywalker showing up in the last episode.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Okay. I firmly disagree, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Go ahead.
My number 2 is all of Ahsoka and the Jedi. That's what I'm saying. Like it should really be 2A and 2B for me.
I feel you.
But that's, this is what's going to be surprising. My number 1's going to shock a lot of people.
You know what? It's your list, and you got to defend it. That's what's part of it. Number 2 for me is the Mando goodbye with Grogu.
Yes, great.
This is such great acting from Pedro Pascal, who's absolutely knocked it out in 16 episodes of this character. He is becoming a household name before our eyes. He's the next generation of Robert Downey Jr., the next generation of Chris Evans, Daniel Radcliffe, just like these key pop culture actors we've had that have kind of either faded or their characters are being put to the back of the stories. It's great to see this guy take over, and he did this with a puppet baby Grogu.
I'm telling you, man.
It's a great scene, and I cried. They got me to cry. Everything made me cry. I think Luke and R2-D2 had a part of it, but that scene made me cry. I absolutely tip my hat to them. I would never have thought I'd cry in a Star Wars show. Great job. Mark, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is the episode where Mando and Grogu go to the ruins of the Jedi Temple. And when we see in the sky is Slave One coming into the atmosphere and coming down. And we're like, Boba Fett's back. Let's go, baby. Loved it.
Wow. Number 1 for me is Luke Skywalker. This, again, is 2 different flavors that aren't really wrong from the same pie. I don't know how that scene is going to get topped moving forward. That's another thing I would add to my fear for the series moving forward. This season feels unbeatable moving forward to me. But if there's anybody that can do it, it's Filoni and Favreau. I absolutely tip my hat to these guys. Again, what I will remember in 2020 is season 2 of this series. This is one of the things I'm going to remember this year.
Brings back the original 3 back. Because you don't really need to bring Harrison Ford and CGI him, because you already had someone else play a younger Han Solo. You just age him up. Bring that dude in. You get me some, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and give me a CGI Leia at some point and have them all 3 together. Because that was a big complaint in the sequel trilogy, is we didn't have a scene with all 3 of them together. That's what the people want. That's what the people want, Max. And that's how you make money. And Disney's all about making the money.
I know. I think a cameo could happen, but
we'll see.
I don't want it. I want to stay with the characters we have. I think I am attached to
But just one part. Like you say the top.
Yeah, one scene I could see. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. I could see it. I don't know if I'm necessarily like, I need it.
I respect your list, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, your list is great, too.
I'm never going to poo-poo anything Star Wars unless something really weird comes up, but, I'm all in Star Wars. They can do no wrong to me, so.
Yeah, right now they're hitting their stride. It's great to have Disney stock. If you own Disney stock, I tip my hat to you.
Dude, I looked at Disney stock today, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to save up money and buy 10 shares, so that at least I just have 10 shares of Disney stock.
So you can just say, I'm an owner. I'm an investor. Well, Mark, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. You can check out Mark at MarkyMark61. Marky Mark 61. You can check me out at MaxMoser73. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at The Infinity Bros. Go on our website at theinfinitybros.com. If you have the itch to Twitch, check us out on Twitch, The Infinity Bros. We're going to be doing a Christmas Eve stream. Me and Isaac will be there, so make sure you check that out.
I might show up as well.
Are you coming, Mark?
I heard it's in the morning, so I might show up. I may not show up, but if I'm there might be another Funko Pop to give away. So
yeah. Well, we have the rest of the week off. Sarah and I do, so we're just hanging around the house doing nothing. So it's gonna be fun. Swing by there, and don't forget our giveaways. Okay, so all you gotta do is go on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You gotta follow us. You gotta comment. You gotta share the post that we're talking about with this free stuff, and then you can hop in our Discord, join and comment. That gets you another opportunity to win. You could get up to 3 entries and win a couple things from us. Get a little Christmas gift. And guess what? They come straight to you. We send them to you. Mark does it himself. So don't miss out on this free giveaway. Another thing, too, if you don't mind, if you're listening to this point, you really care about us, please, please, please give us a rating on iTunes. We would love it if you left a rating and even a review. If it's below 4 stars, stop listening to us. I'm going to kick you in the nuts. Leave us alone.
Oh, now it's
But if it's above
stars.
4 stars, if it's 4 or 5 stars, we'd love for you to stick around and do it. As always, we love you guys 3,000, and we will talk to you later. See ya. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.